The world's richest man has just announced that he will be building a 2026 tiny house for $0 down and no monthly mortgage payments. But is this announcement hype, or will it actually change the way we think about housing forever? Well, that's what we're going to find out in today's video. What's up, guys? It's me here. So I don't know about you, but I have to admit, when I heard this headline, I assumed that it was clickbait. Elon Musk is known for making wild statements that are never followed through on, like his infamous The Boring Company tunnel that was supposed to get people from LA to San Francisco in under 30 minutes, or how he claimed that Tesla would have full self-driving by the end of 2020. Not to mention the time he promised to eliminate traffic by 2020 with the Hyperloop, or how Tesla's Cybertruck would come equipped with a giant built-in bed and armchairs that would allow you to work while driving. Clearly, it seems that Elon Musk makes these wild statements all the time without thinking about the consequences. So when I saw this article, I thought there was no way that it could possibly be true, so I decided to do some digging. And what I found was absolutely shocking. According to multiple sources, Elon Musk has confirmed that in 3 years, the Boring Company will begin construction on an actual 2026 tiny home that does not require any money down and does not require any monthly mortgage payments. Of course, there's definitely got to be a catch. So let's talk about exactly what this means, the details behind this new development, how it works, why Elon Musk is doing this, and then finally my thoughts on whether or not this is actually going to make a difference. Because if you're anything like me, you probably have a ton of questions. It's like, why would Elon Musk care about building affordable housing? What makes him think that he can solve the nation's largest housing crisis? How will this be sustainable long term? And will it actually be affordable? Or is this just another one of Elon Musk's failed promises? Well, first let's start with the basics. When Elon Musk says that he wants to build a 2026 tiny home, he's referring to the 2026 Starbase prototype that was created in 2019. The goal of this community was to solve the problem of affordable housing by giving people a fully functioning home for less than $25,000. The idea is that each unit would be around 400 square feet, which is large enough for a single person or small family, but at the same time, cost a fraction of the price compared to traditional homes, according to the official website. They consist of 375 square feet of interior space, plus an additional 125 square feet of exterior deck space. They've got a bathroom, kitchen, living room, and bedroom, along with plenty of windows and natural light. Plus, they fully equipped with solar panels and battery packs to ensure that every resident has access to electricity, even if they off the grid. And here's where things get really interesting. Although these tiny homes were first unveiled in 2019, they've yet to be approved by the state of Texas, which is probably why Elon Musk said that they'll be starting construction on a brand new model in 2023. In addition to that, Elon Musk also said that these homes would not require any money down and would not require any monthly mortgage payments. Instead, residents would only have to pay a small service fee to cover maintenance, repairs, and property taxes. That sounds too good to be true, so how does this even work? Well, the idea is that the service fee would essentially cover the cost of owning a home. For example, according to Zillow, the average homeowner spends $13,000 per year on property maintenance, insurance, repairs, and property taxes. This averages out to about $1,100 per month. However, as you'll soon see, this is just the tip of the iceberg, because most of the cost associated with homeownership comes in the form of your mortgage payment. But wait a second. I thought you said that you didn't have to make any mortgage payments.
So,
How does that work exactly? Oh, here's the thing. In order to buy a home, you need to borrow money from a bank, which you then have to pay back over an agreed-upon period of time, usually 30 years, along with interest. Now, if you want to finance a $250,000 home with a 30-year mortgage at a 5 interest rate, your monthly payment would be $1,300. That means that over the next 30 years, you're going to pay back a total of $468,000 for a $250,000 house. And that's just the cost of the house. This doesn't take into account any additional costs like closing costs, property taxes, maintenance, or insurance. When you add all of those costs together, the average homeowner ends up spending 30% more than the value of their house over the course of the loan. So in this case, it would mean that you spend nearly $1 million to buy a $250,000 house. Now, obviously that's not ideal. So here's the deal. Even though Elon Musk says that these homes would cost $25,000, that's not entirely accurate. Yes. It would cost $25,000 to purchase the home. However, it wouldn't necessarily cost $25,000 to live in the home. If anything, it would probably cost a little bit less than $1,100 per month, which would technically save you money. The issue is that if you actually went through with this, it would result in you paying $25,000 up front to buy the house, and then an additional $30,000 over the next 15 years to cover maintenance, repairs, and property taxes. That means that instead of spending $60,000 to own a $25,000 house, you could spend $60,000 and buy a $35,000 house. In other words, you could spend $60,000 and buy a much nicer house somewhere else. So now you're probably asking yourself, why would anybody ever choose to buy a tiny $25,000 house when they could just buy a normal $35,000 house for the same amount of money? Well, unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that question. In fact, I think that's a great point, and I'm not sure how Elon Musk is going to get people to move into these tiny homes. But regardless, it seems like a decent idea with the right adjustments. Here's what I would do. If I were Elon Musk, I would abandon the monthly payment plan completely and instead use the $1,100 per month and invest it into the stock market. To keep things simple, let's assume that you invest that $1,100 per month into SPY, which is an S&P 500 ETF. Now, since the stock market has an average annual return of 8%, you'd end up with a balance of $1 million after 30 years. That's right. You could buy a $25,000 house and then reinvest the $1,100 per month into the stock market and end up with $1 million portfolio, all thanks to compound interest. Of course, it's worth mentioning that this is just a basic example and does not take into consideration things like inflation, taxes, or different investment returns. But it does show that if you're willing to invest your money properly, you'll be able to get a much better return than buying a tiny $25,000 house. And speaking of investing, so with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.